Sure, you know this about your bank account if you're married or have a partner. I'm so sorry, ma'am. After your husband passed, we had to freeze all of his bank accounts. But I'm his wife. I can't get access to those funds? Unfortunately, no. You're going to have to go through costly probate now. What could I have done differently? Well, you could have set up a POD. POD? What's that? It stands for Payable on Death, or POD for short.
All right, I saw that on Instagram and I thought to myself, I want to know more about this, which is why estate planning attorney Theodora Vaporis from Tuggle Duggins is with us to help explain what's going on. All right, so let's just start with the basics. What exactly is a TOD and what's a POD?
Okay, so a POD, or a pay on death, is a designation that you can put on your bank account, your CD, your checking account, that says that the person you've designated will inherit the actual account assets upon your death. If you have several people listed as your POD, then they would take the assets as joint tenants with right of survivorship. And we'll come back to that because it's really important for you to understand if you're making that designation. If you're doing a TOD, which is transfer on death, we're referring really to your investment accounts, so your IRAs or just your brokerage account. And in that case, the account transfers on death to your designated beneficiaries. Kind of the same distinction in terms of them owning the account jointly.
Okay, so let's go over this. So is this something where everybody should have a POD if you're not on the same bank account or checking account or savings account as your spouse?
Well, for your spouse, absolutely. It's a great idea. If your assets are joint and you don't keep them separate, yes, your spouse should be your POD. That makes it automatic so that on your death, your spouse owns the account. It gets a little trickier when you're putting children on there. Because you don't want to designate just one child if you intend for all of your children to share in it. That's always a bad idea when you just expect that they will share the account. Also, if you let's say you have two children, you put them together, then when you die, they inherit the account together and they're joint with right of survivorship. So if one of your children dies a week later and they didn't do anything about changing that, then the account solely belongs to your surviving child. So you may want to make a special designation that they don't take it as joint tenants with right of survivorship, but that they each get half.
Okay, and how do you do this POD thing?
Well, you do it at the bank, and one of the dangers that I like to warn people about is when you go to the bank, sometimes people kind of just check boxes, or if you have a newer, more unsophisticated person working at the bank, they'll help you check boxes and say this is easier. And if you haven't thought it through, you can make a mistake. One of the first things I talk to clients about when they come in is I ask them, do you know what your designations are on your bank accounts? And if you don't know, can you bring them in so we can make sure they are the way that you want them?
You mean designations as in like beneficiaries?
Sure, I want to know who their beneficiaries are in case they have just put their child who's power of attorney on there, not realizing they were actually giving them the account on their death, but that wasn't what they intended to do. So it needs to be thought out, just like you think out the provisions in your will. You want to make sure you're doing it appropriately.
Well, this was the thing. I mean, I think that, a spouse, a parent, they can die anytime. It's not like we're telling people this is something you should do like when someone's on their deathbed. This is something that you should do because anybody can get into an accident. Anything can happen at any time. And to think that you would not be able to get to that money.
Sure. It does avoid probate. It makes it much more readily available. So there's certainly some advantages. And sometimes if a person has a trust, the account is in a trust and you have those advantages and more. But if you're not a person who has a trust, then this can be a really good option for you so that the assets pass quickly and are available quickly.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Got about 45 seconds. Is there any con to this?
I think that the only con is if you don't do it right. That's where the con is if you don't do it right, you put one child down because they are the person who's taking care of you, but you didn't really mean for them to own the account. So not to think it out carefully is the con.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's really a good method.
Gotcha. Your warning on that is maybe that child is not going to share with the other children. And you never know what's going to happen after everything happens. All right. Well, thank you for putting that into context about the pod and the TOD. Now we know. We so appreciate it. You might want to send this to someone that you know. It's going to be in the Who Wants to Know section of our website.